We're back and we're taking notes on the costs and benefits of globalization. This is the very last set of notes in econ, so you can rejoice. You've made it. Let's talk about the Globalization Index. The Globalization Index ranks countries and indicates how much it's opened itself up to trade and contact with other countries. GDP is a factor. Wealthier countries usually are the highest ranking, like the United States and European nations. Switzerland is number one. Switzerland does not really have any natural resources, so opening itself up to trade is very important. It's not just that Switzerland is a financial haven, but it has an interesting egalitarian government that has helped its country along. Lower ranked countries are usually marked by poverty. There's also social factors that go into this. What people have, what are the amenities in this country? Do they have infrastructure for telecommunications, the internet? Are people having access to television programs? What's the shopping like? They also are going to take into account embassies and political affiliations, like international organizations, like we discussed last class. Consequences of globalization. One of the problems is that some countries face extreme poverty. The positive is that over the years, globalization has helped lift countries out of extreme poverty, and the number is actually going down. One benefit of globalization would be export-led development. This is a method to create a high-growth economy, which was seen in South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore since about the 1960s. These countries have focused on exports and educating their people to significantly grow their economies and become some of the biggest players in the economic game in the world. A negative consequence of globalization is cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism can be seen through what's called Coca globalization. We're going to watch a video in a moment that will show you how American culture is imposed on the world through Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. There may be no other product that reaches more of mankind. With 500 brands and 3,500 products, 1.9 billion times a day, a consumer somewhere around the world reaches for a Coca-Cola product. A product whose iconic white lettering against a bright red background is recognized by 94% of the world's population. A product whose name is the second most understood term in the world behind OK. A product whose company's $35.1 billion in revenue makes it the 84th largest economy in the world, just ahead of Costa Rica. A single product that can trace the cultural, economic, and political aspects of globalization, Coca-Cola. By riding the powerful wave of globalization, the Coca-Cola Company has penetrated the Earth's farthest corners, from Atlanta, Georgia, to Papua New Guinea. An entity that globally influential, however, tends to attract a lot of critics. For many people, inside and outside of the United States, Coca-Cola is pure Americana, an icon of essential U.S. national culture. But when Coke aired its new patriotic commercial with America the Beautiful, sung in various languages during the 2014 Super Bowl, controversy ensued.
Beautiful for spacious skies, por tus olas de granos ámbar, yo
What could possibly be wrong with this? Well, a lot, apparently. A lot of nasty, ugly reaction on Twitter and Coke's Facebook page. One example, quote, "Speak English or go home."
Americans lashed out on social media, protesting Coca-Cola's efforts to showcase the country's diverse population. Let's take an American patriotic song and make it foreign. Good one, Coke. Still confused as to why they were singing about America in all those foreign languages in the Coke commercial. We speak English. I'll never drink another Coke after that heinous un-American commercial. I'm utterly disgusted. But while Americans complained about Coke's efforts to be more global, the rest of the world feared that the American-based company was spreading a blanket of homogeneity across the globe. Many believe the company to be a leading agent of the movement towards monoculturalization. Monoculturalization is an ideology depicting the spread of Western ideals that ultimately replace distinguished traditional customs in certain areas. Coca-Cola's effort to localize a distinctively American drink in every foreign context is unparalleled. The company alone spends more money on advertising than Microsoft and Apple combined in order to promote its American flagship product as a universal commodity. Many critics see this universalism as a mechanism that alienates and ultimately removes all traces of the particular local region. They fear that a globally contextualized product will inevitably lose its tangible local roots during its transition to a more abstract and global entity. However, the Coca-Cola Company isn't simply a steamroller of globalization that eradicates everything in its path. Rather, Coke practices disembedding, a phenomena where companies remove their product from its original context and reconstruct it to fit a more global scene. The company then re-embeds its product to cater to specific regions around the world, often using local context to shape its marketing strategy. Shown in its multitude of global advertising, Coke has indeed taken its distinctively American product and allowed for it to feel familiar anywhere. Coke shifted away from simply translating advertisements from English to other languages, and instead began utilizing targeted marketing to reach its local customers by adjusting advertisements to fit in with local customs and sayings. Even within the specific country of India, for example, Coke wishes different states a happy holiday in their various state dialects. One for Uttar Pradesh, one for Rajasthan, one for Maharashtra, one for Tamil Nadu. So rather than feeling like a foreign company is erasing precious local culture, Coke consumers actually feel as though the company is simply adding to their already existing practices. They don't regard their culture as a bounded entity that ought to be insulated against change. Instead, they adapt Coke as an additional part of their cultural identity and tradition. Consideration of the movement of worldly things, such as soft drinks from New York to New Guinea, is not a novel way of viewing globalization. Coca-Cola is certainly a symbol of that global connection. Whether the corporation is being criticized for monoculturalization or praised for practicing disembedding, the Coca-Cola Company's influence and power as a global player is undeniable. A global player whose brand is worth an estimated $74 billion, more than Budweiser, Pepsi, Starbucks, and Red Bull combined. A global player whose product is sold in more than 200 countries. A global player that has changed the world.
A negative consequence of globalization would be that some countries become pollution havens. The idea is that wealthier countries that need factories, companies that operate in those wealthier countries would seek out countries with looser environmental laws and lower wages to open their factories. And companies will start flocking to those countries and destroy the environment. We see this, for example, in India with the leather tanneries and the jeans factories. One of the consequences of globalization on people and our individual psyches is the concept of conspicuous consumption. Spending money to show that you have money, wanting more and more just for the look of it. It can be seen in everybody's lives. Obviously, depending on your wealth, it can go to new levels. This is a documentary, just a trailer of a documentary called The Queen of Versailles.
My name is David Siegel.
My name is Jacqueline Siegel.
I am the founder, CEO of the largest timeshare company in the world.
I'm a 43-year-old mother of 8. We never sought out to build the biggest house in America. It just kind of happened.
It's bigger than the White House. 2 tennis courts,
30 bathrooms,
full-size baseball field,
10 kitchens,
antique furniture.
90,000 square feet.
Oh my God.
No, that's not my room. That's my closet.
No way. Nothing's really normal about this life.
So, as we know from taking this course, the study of economics is concerned with production and consumption. Production and consumption have an effect on the environment. There's a theory that as societies become richer, meaning they have a higher per capita income per person, they start to actually reduce the pollution that that country will create. The problem with the Kuznets curve is that we're shipping the environmental disasters to other countries. So as our standards are starting to improve, we don't have the factories as much in the United States anymore. We're bringing down other countries' standards. The world speaks about 7,000 languages, and in about 80 years, half of them are expected to go extinct because, due to globalization, people and areas are choosing the dominant language. And as you can see from this map, there's a lot of different areas in which languages are in danger.